from Darkstar Astrology, and we're going to look at the full moon, which is on the 17th of June, and it's Sagittarius, 25 degrees of Sag. So this one is a bit of a humdinger, really. It's on fixed star Lesath, which is in the Scorpion stinger. And Lesath, I kind of branded as a bit of a psycho star when I was looking at the astrology of psychopaths. It kept coming up, and it's also within orb of Galactic center as well. The tarot card is a 10 of Wands, and the healing crystal will be shungite. So this is an extremely sensitive zone of the zodiac, for at night it teems with slithering serpents, dragons and scorpion stingers. The moon here makes it quite a treacherous labyrinth to navigate, and one where you will have to be good at feeling your way through the dark. What it really comes down to is being able to trust the universe enough to hope it takes you to where you need to be. In some ways, it can actually be an advantage not to be able to see the scary creatures dangling between the dimensions. So this zone carries two extremes. We could see too much and be driven mad by the true nature of reality, or find the unknown fascinating and enjoy the challenge. If we choose to go down the rabbit hole, we will have to build some very strong psychic shields. At certain stages, we will need to have the sense to pause in our journey. The successful will be those who develop enough patience to wait until they feel more in tune with their path. Another possibility is the habit of summoning up the monsters that no one wants to face. Now, Trump, interestingly enough, and also Nigel Farage, both have their natal moon in this decan. So no wonder they get on together. So their moons will be conjunct. But anyway, the meaning of the moon here is that these folk will then have evilness projected onto them. Well, yes. Here, naivety and idealism combine to help those touched by this full moon sail through anything. The lurking demons lose their power over them. Saturn ruling this decan can make us addicted to a kind of I'll prove the public wrong attitude, and each challenge faced and superseded only makes us crave yet another one. So at this full moon, we could easily burn ourselves out if we're not careful. Sorry, I might get a bit croaky today. I've had this really sore throat, and I think it's to do with the hay fever season here. So sorry about that. I will try and drink this tea, and hopefully the honey will make it better. So anyway, back to the full moon. Now, Lesath is quite a notorious star in the stinger of the Scorpion, and I found it to have quite a psychopathic energy, but only at its very lowest vibration. It doesn't always have to be that way. So Vivian Robson says that this star gives danger, desperation, immorality and malevolence, and is connected with acid poisons. Oh God, I hope no more, we don't get any more acid attacks here in London. It seems to be the thing these days. Anyway, back to this. But of course, Lesath does have its positive side too. So not unexpectedly, it gets a Mars-Mercury rating from Ptolemy. So Eric Morse says that what else for Delph and Swift injector like this? Its qualities in the horoscope are very much those of a probing, sharp intellect and incisive wit, every bit as damaging as a knife to its opponent. It does show them, people that do have this position, to have an enterprising spirit of keenness of insight, not always thought of in connection with that religio-philosophical ninth sign of the zodiac. People, well, they're talking about Sagittarius here. People with this star strong in their charts are known for doing well in debate, business, sport, and high office in general. If not well aspected, though, can be inclined to strike first and ask afterwards with an embarrassing loss of face. Doesn't that really describe Farage and Donald Trump, really, in their ways that they communicate? I don't think they've got their moon conjunct Lesath though, but it carries that vibration through the whole of that decan really. So Bill Hicks, though, he has this. He has Sun conjunct Mercury bang on Lesath, and he's also got them at, Kadzimi, so they're only 13 minutes apart. So he's a really good example of Lesath in action. But to offset all this prime evilness in this decan, we also have the Galactic Center. Now, Zane Stein, another astrologer, he has some great links explaining what this amazing point could signify. And he quotes Philip Sedgwick saying that the Galactic Center acts like a satellite dish, directing divinely inspired information straight to the potentially receptive grey matter of our brains. So if you believe in God, this might be the voice you hear. But regardless, within this connection, you will have the ability to pull down wild information, which you would otherwise have no way of knowing. And Zane goes on to say, in his book, Phil writes that when an individual ignores this transpersonal link, he can experience stress and confusion. But when the link is consciously utilized, the individual can grasp information that they may seem to have no outward way of knowing. End quote. So the stress and confusion could explain why some Sagittarian decan 3s could experience the negative side of this decan, but they need, and at this time, with this influence of this full moon, we'll need more than most to have this vital connection with spirit. So the third face of Sagittarius, you can see the illustration is quite, rather grim, really. And this is because it's based on the Picatrix, and this is what the Picatrix says of the third face of Sagittarius. A man with a cap on his head who is murdering another man. This is the face of evil effects and fickleness in these and evil wishes, hatred, dispersion, and evil conduct. So evil, 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 3 times is in that sentence. If we didn't get the hint, really, it's evil. I mean, if you look at the illustration at the bottom, there's a little boy with wings drinking the blood of this guy who's being murdered. So, the whole thing makes me just think of the whole, paedophile, child sacrifice, any sacrifice, drinking blood so that you can be eternally young. I'll talk about that later, I think, the vampire facials. And anyway, to the aspects, there are... Actually, maybe I won't go on about the aspects. I think you can read about them on my website. My voice is just not holding up today. All right, I'll quickly go through them. I mean, the main thing is that we have the ongoing streamer pattern. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because of all the live streams that we have on YouTube and how much of YouTube is being censored at the moment. And the streamer was in the last new moon, and now it's in this one. And there's also that ongoing nodal conjunction with Saturn as well. And we also, with this one, have a very sort of vampire-y Mars, Mercury opposite Saturn and Pluto across the nodes. And that's massively powerful and could trigger, violence born out of the Mercury-Saturn opposition. And when I wrote this, I put in brackets censorship. I can't say that word, censorship, with a question mark. And my God, there has been this massive YouTube purge over the last few days of anyone who is, I'm going to say it, it's more or less, it's just people who aren't on the right and who aren't going along with the progressive agenda. I mean, that's all it is, really. So back to this. Now that, along with the emotions of the full moon, could provoke some free speech demonstrations or even some civil unrest. Watch out for countries or states that have the aforementioned positions or the moon degree prominent in their charts. So yeah, it's anything with any country or person with an angle, sun or moon, around 25 degrees of Sagittarius. Now you can see, this is going to be a very volcanic aspect because the meaning of Mars opposite Pluto I just wrote for that from my post on it. Mars square or opposition Pluto thrives on danger and trauma. The adrenaline runs like petrol through their veins. They are fantastic to have around in an emergency situation, but can also seem at times to prey a little too much on other people's life dramas. The perfect career for this aspect would be a kind of bungee jumping sex therapist who fearlessly plunges into the dark dungeons of other people's perverted fantasies without a second thought. They find it all fascinating. Now, Mars opposite Saturn is most commonly associated with violence because of the combination of the two malefics with the most challenging aspects you can have in astrology, the opposition. The native is extremely competitive, especially with the opposition. And of course, it's polarizing. So anyone who has an opposite opinion, it's just going to have to die. I think people are really going to have to pick sides at the moment. And it's really, I keep saying this all the time, every time I do moon post, that it's just polarizing so strongly now. It's all because of the internet, though, because everyone's in their little bubble now and they have their feeds of what they follow, and there's no impartiality anymore. It used to be that you were supposed to report things unbiasedly and have all sides, but now I think what's happening is because the mainstream is so one-sided that YouTube has done the opposite. It's just to balance things out, it's going to have to jump to the opposite. So that's why I called this post extremist. That's why I called it that, because this is what makes me laugh. There's all this right-wing extremists. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. I don't see any extreme action from to me, extremism is the culture that we have at the moment. Miley Cyrus and the degeneracy and the sex and the violence. That's extremism, and it's being projected to us all the time. And I don't know, I couldn't find it because I tried to look it up, but there's some new series on Netflix apparently that has. It's just the sexualization of young children, drag queen beauty pageants, and they're all like under 7. To me, that's extreme. I don't understand why. Anyway, right wing is pretty conservative. That's not extremist, it's conservative. So to me, the extremism is slut walks and everything that is being promoted in the media these days. But anyway, I'll go back to that because I've got something that I think I want to talk about. But just to close off the post, the tarot card that's associated with this deck is the 10 of Wands, and you can see the picture. It's a heavy burden, very Saturnian. So Teach Me Tarot say that the 10 of Wands can suggest that someone has put a saddle on your back and will ride you to hell if they want. They may see you as a workhorse and take advantage of your good nature and willingness to help. You may be given the hardest and messiest tasks to carry out. And because you are obliging and successfully completing them, more and more is then asked of you. And now, this being the tropical sign of the Archer, the workhorse metaphor is quite appropriate, really. And the trusting nature too is shown due to Saturn being its rulership, and it gives a strong work ethic also. So with this energy, really, it's either working extremely hard or zoning out altogether. So yeah, now I was just thinking the workhorses. So if anyone's read Animal Farm, I have a vague memory of it when I read it at school, but I remember the horse in it was really kind of trusting, wasn't he? I can't remember what his name was, but he was very, he just got on with things, didn't question, but they needed him. Anyway, I don't know. But the thing is, most conservative type people are the workhorses. They have the strong work ethic. They're not going around, if everybody was a Dionysian drag queen, where would the world be? Who are the workhorses? They're the people that conform, that don't spend time causing dramas, basically. They just, stoic, grit their teeth, Saturnian energy, get down to work. And it's the drama people and the parasites who are, draining these horses of their energy. And at some point, the horses will just go, enough of this, enough. So, yeah, they're too obliging. They've been too obliging, the horses, and nature will balance out in the end. Anyway, this going back to the Hollywood thing, because I always like to look for good comedies that I can watch with my daughter, family-friendly ones that aren't too rude. And we were watching Arrested Development for quite a long time, but it was already, even in the early series, getting a bit creepy. Like I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's basically a dysfunctional narcissistic family, but the things like the incest hints and paedophilia hints as well, cousin relationships, like they share a room and they kissed, and I think there are like 16-year-olds, but there's a lot of what I sort of term as kind of grooming for paedophilia and incestual stuff. Really creepy. And it just got more and more as the series went on, and it stopped being so funny. And then we watched the new series 10 years on, I think it was, or 5 years on. And it got really bad. And me and my daughter just went, oh, it's not funny anymore. It's disgusting. But what you feel like is that in the beginning, it's all very innocent. You think, oh, yeah, I love comedies about families. And we sort of identified with it a bit. The grandma is like my mum, and she's very narcissistic. And it's got some, I mean, I had a gay uncle, and there's lots of gay things in it, and it's quite funny. It's quite irreverent in that way, and lots of homoerotic stuff going on. It's all quite funny in the beginning, but then it just gets creepy as time gets on. So you feel like you're being groomed through this series, because you fall in love with the characters in the beginning, they're funny, and then it gets creepy. And it occurred to me that this happens a lot, I think, in a lot of series. And then also with people like Miley Cyrus. She started off as Disney, innocent girl, children, young girls in their before puberty get into her, and then they're groomed by her development. And then later on she's doing that, what was it called? The wrecking ball thing, and then the sticking out tongue Carly thing, and becoming a complete sex object. So she's grooming people, she's taking these young children and grooming them to be abused. I mean, it's so paedophiliac-ish. So it happens through the media, and to me that's extremism. And so then I was thinking, no wonder places like China have a ban on the internet, because they don't want to be infected by this stuff, this demonic stuff. It's demonic. It actually is demonic. And as I said, I was someone who was very anti-religion, and I know that was because Christianity was so demonized. Oh, and that was the thing also in Arrested Development, that the son, one of the kissing cousin, he fell in love with a Christian girl, and the way they portrayed the Christians were like they were some kind of cult members, that they were all suppressing their rampant sexuality, and they couldn't wait to have sex because they were so repressed. I mean, that's how Christians are portrayed, and it's not like that at all. I mean, yeah, as I've grown up a Catholic, so I know Catholics, and nobody's going around being, you know, the joke about convent schoolgirls. I mean, yeah, I went to a convent school, and actually, the people who were the most promiscuous were the least religious girls in the school. You know, they were the ones who were just there because their fathers thought if they put them in a Catholic school, they might behave themselves a bit more. But they weren't the most Christian ones. So, yeah, anyway, getting off topic. But what I'm trying to say is that I just can't believe how bad the TV has got. I was watching a really old, because I love the really old miniseries, like made in the things that are made in the 1970s, and the difference, like I was watching Edward the Seventh, and yeah, he was quite like most British kings, they all had mistresses, and yeah, the mistresses appear in the series, but it's only very hinted at. There's you certainly don't see them kissing or anything. And then what, you know, the Tudors comes along and there's massive sex scenes and it's, you know, pornographic. But in those days there was just a hint of it, and you vaguely knew that they were having an affair, and that's it. And it's all very dignified. I mean, maybe it's because it's royalty, but still. Oh, no, it doesn't make any difference because, yeah, the Tudors. That's all I can say. So, yeah, you can see how far things have gone in a very short amount of time, that we've had film and TV. Well, the first TVs were, 1950s, 60s. So it was the beginning of TV, and things were pretty tame. And now, my God, it's outrageous. Again, you know, started watching The Bodyguard, which is a British series, and straight away with episode 3, the bodyguard's already shagging the Secretary of State, who is the woman that he's guarding. And you know, really. So my daughter hides under the blanket when these sex scenes come on. And this is what, 9 o'clock? I don't know. There used to be the 9 o'clock watershed. I don't know if that even is relevant anymore. So after 9, you could show like rude things. I thought, is this necessary? It just isn't. So anyway, sorry, I'm just sounding like Mary. Well, there was this woman called Mary Whitehouse who used to always go on about how things were degenerating and were disgusting. I mean, she'd have a heart attack if she saw what's on Netflix these days. Yeah, Orange is the Only Black. Filth, utterly. So I couldn't watch that anymore. So I feel like one of those Victorians, you know, with their fans just furiously fluttering the fan going, oh my God. But that's the way it's got to. And I was someone who I thought was quite, you know, went to art school. Everyone was really bohemian, and everyone was like kind of sleeping around, and it was like kind of the arty people were the most promiscuous in the college. Not that I was doing that. I was too busy fluttering my fan and being outraged. But yeah, so I'm no prude. But it's getting ridiculous. That's all I can say. But it's not just that. It's not just this sexual stuff. It's also the blatant trying to program you into accepting female authority figures as well. Like in this Bodyguard, all the head of police was female. The head of the Secret Service or the security people, she was also female. When there was a police scene, the first officer on the scene who was it was always a female. So all the heads of their various companies were all female. The only male in it was the bodyguard, who was being used like a sex object, basically. With a failed marriage as well, like his wife was having an affair. They just split up, and he was coping with that. He had PTSD as well because he'd been in Afghanistan. So And all the time there's digs at his masculinity. It's obviously toxic as well. So and this is BBC as well. So I started watching it with my daughter because she said that the reviews were good, but it was BBC. So yeah, all the authority figures were female. So it makes me wonder. I was thinking, what's going on here? And also, oh yeah, it's like Star Wars, isn't it? Like the last Star Wars. The females were the heroes. Now there's no male heroes anymore, which is just unreal. Because if you go to war and most soldiers, what is the percentage of females in the army? I don't think it's very high, and so it's so unreal now. It's just a turn off. It's a turn off, and I think people are getting sick of being lectured to. It's like being in church, the Church of Hollywood. So yeah, that's my rant for today. I was just looking back over Mars opposite Pluto. Just repeat this. One who fearlessly plunges into the dark dungeons of other people's perverted fantasies. Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, let's look at the healing crystal. So I chose shungite because with all this dark energy afoot, I thought we need a really good protective stone. So Energy Muse says that its healing properties span the board from purity to protection. Shungite has electricity conducting properties. These shungite properties are known to aid in the inhibition of EMFs or electromagnetic fields that are the result of electromagnetic radiation. And that's another thing, the whole 5G. That's another subject altogether. But yeah, we're going to need a shed load of shungite. So crystals and jewellery say black is almost always the colour of protection in Western magic, as it is said to cloak the subject of the spell in darkness so that bad luck cannot find them. So being made of a very similar atomic structure to charcoal, that is, it's mostly carbon, it can have similar benefits on a psychic level to what charcoal has on a physical level. So it cleans and cleanses impurities. It can be used to help remove negative people or bad luck from your life. So yeah, maybe you need to wear it when you're watching anything from Netflix. And then Feel crystals say the antioxidant properties of the fullerenes, never heard of that, in shungite make it extremely useful for boosting the immune system by eliminating toxins, bacteria, viruses and free radicals. I love free radicals. That's such a funny name. Free radicals. Anyway, it's they're free and they're radical. It's reputed to have anti-inflammatory and antihistamine properties. Shungite can also absorb negative energy and remove it from a person or space. So throw that shungite at the TV when it starts being icky. All right then. Yeah, that brings me to the end. This purge, by the way, I was wondering about what to do about this purge because on YouTube, do you think it would be a good idea? Oh, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people just want the astrology and not the rants. And so then I was thinking maybe I'll just put the astrology on YouTube, and that way I know that I never have to worry about I don't really care about being demonetized, to be honest. It's not that. I just don't want to strike against my channel. And you really never know what they're going to do. So then I thought, well, I could record the sort of part 1 and then have a subscription to part 2. But then how on earth would you do that anyway? And where would part 2 be done? Maybe I could record it on BitChute and then link to BitChute from here. Because at first I was thinking, or maybe just have subscribers, but I don't know how you could do it so that whether you can make, I think it'd be too complicated to make the video private and then give them a password, give subscribers a password to see the whole video on YouTube. But then you'd still be on YouTube, and then there'll probably be some keywords that they don't like, so then you risk having a strike, even if it's private. Or I don't know, maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know how this how they're policing this. I really don't know how they are. Anyway, it is worrying. But I wonder whether they're just doing it just to scare people, just so that people go, oh, I can't say that. And because I'm not worried about being unpopular anymore. I'm just worried about having strikes. I don't care about that anymore. I've got over my my need to be liked now. That was all a kind of narcissistic wound from mother. So the criticism, I don't really care. I've got over that. And YouTube's been a really good therapy for me, really, to get over it now. So anyway, and if I just want to say to other people who might have the problem with wrong think, then just get over it. It really doesn't matter. It's really liberating to just say what you think and realise that it's only a really small minority of extremists in the media. They're the media extremists. They're the ones who are making you think it's everywhere. But it's the Wizard of Oz. It totally is the Wizard of Oz. Tiny little man behind a curtain. That's all it is. And if you look at the rest of the world who think the same as me, and most people who aren't mentally ill, maybe I am mentally ill, or most just average people think it's normal to think the way that you think. Don't feel shame for it. It's only a small minority of gender-free people who are confused about who they really are and where they're from, and anything to do with the word nature, who are controlling this whole thing. And it's not real. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. So yeah, there's a whole big world out there, and just think of it this way: if everyone followed the whole progressive agenda to a T, they'd die out in one generation, and they won't be here anymore to criticise you. So the survivors are going to be those ones who follow nature's law, because nature is never wrong. So I'll leave it at that. Oh, just another piece of news. All the 2020 horoscopes are complete, and they are on my website. And I've just given it a bit of a revamp as well. So it looks really fab. I think I'm really pleased with it. So yeah, come and check it out. All right then, all the best. See you next time. Bye-bye.